You wake up in the morning, you're lying there, scrolling on your phone, and a small voice in your head says, "Get up and start the day. You've got things to do." But another voice whispers, "Just a little longer. It's so cozy here." This is where the first battle of the day begins. The Bhagavad Gita talks about these battles, not the kind fought with swords, but the ones that happened inside us. It's the war between two parts of ourselves, the side that wants to grow, improve, and do what's right, and the side that wants to avoid discomfort, take shortcuts, or act out of fear. The dilemma on the Kurukshetra battlefield, as narrated in the Bhagavad Gita, is one of the most profound moments in spiritual literature. Arjuna, the great warrior, stands torn between his duty and his emotions. His confusion and hesitation are not just about the physical war, but represent the universal human struggle of making difficult decisions in the face of moral, emotional, and practical conflicts. This war isn't just about productivity, it's about emotions too. Anger, jealousy, anxiety. These are all soldiers of lower self. They charge forward when things don't go our way. But the Gita teaches us that these emotions are not the problem. How we respond to them is what matters. Krishna, the guide in the Gita, tells us to practice mastery over the mind, not by suppressing these emotions, but by understanding and rising above them. Every choice we make is like a skirmish in this larger war. Do we give in to anger and snap at someone, or do we pause, breathe, and respond calmly? Do we let fear stop us from trying new things, or do we push forward trusting in our abilities? The higher self doesn't always win, and that's okay. The Gita reminds us that the war inside isn't about perfection, it's about persistence. One of the Gita's most profound teachings is the idea of Dharma, or purpose. When you know what truly matters to you, your values, your responsibilities, your goals, it becomes easier to make choices that align with your higher self. Think of Dharma as your compass in the chaos. Even when the lower self is loud, Dharma gives you direction. Krishna also emphasizes detachment. This doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you do your best without obsessing over the results. Whether you succeed or fail, the effort within itself is what strengthens your higher self. Over time, this practice of detachment makes the battles less exhausting, because you're not weighed down by fear of failure or the need for constant approval. So these daily wars we face, our inner conflicts, our emotional struggles, our moral dilemmas, they're not something to dread. They're opportunities. Each battle gives us a chance to grow stronger, to act with integrity, and to get closer to our true selves. The Gita reminds us that we are warriors, not against the world, but against the forces within us that hold us back. And every time we choose the higher path, even in small ways, we win a victory worth celebrating. Arjuna's dilemma is our own. At the start of the battle, Arjuna, the great warrior, is overwhelmed. He sees the opposing army filled with his own family and friends, and he is paralyzed by doubt and fear. He wonders, how can I fight this battle? What's the point of it all? This is where Krishna steps in as his guide. He explains to Arjuna that the war isn't just about the people in front of him. It's about fulfilling his dharma, his purpose, and rising above his inner fears and attachments. Arjuna's struggle mirrors the questions we all ask ourselves. Why is life so challenging? How do I stay strong when things get tough? What's the right thing to do when everything feels confusing? The everyday battles we fight. Now think about your own life. Every day is a Kurukshetra with small and big battles. The battle of choices. Should you stick to your responsibilities even when it's hard, or take an easier, less fulfilling path? The battle of emotions. When anger, jealousy, or fear arises, do you let them control you, or do you pause and respond wisely? The battle of habits. Do you follow the discipline needed to grow, or give in to procrastination and distraction? These battles might seem ordinary, but they shape who we are. Let's dive into this dilemma and the lessons Krishna imparts to resolve it. Understand your dharma, purpose. Know your role and responsibilities in life and act in alignment with them. Krishna reminds Arjuna that his duty as a warrior is to fight for justice and what is right. Avoiding the battle out of fear or attachment would mean abandoning his purpose. In chapter 2, verse 47, it is mentioned, Karmanyevadhikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana ma karma phalheturbhu ma te sangosto karmani. You have the right to perform your duties, but not to the fruits of your actions. Do not let the results of your work be your motive, nor let your attachment lead you to inaction. Arjuna was ready to abandon the battlefield out of despair, but Krishna reminded him that neglecting his duties would only lead to greater harm. Arjuna's hesitation stemmed from fear of the consequences of the war and his own blood in front of him, his own personal emotions which contributed to his anxiety. In our lives, when faced with tough choices, ask yourself, what is my responsibility here? What aligns with my values and purpose? Standing up for what's right, even when it's hard, or fulfilling commitments, even when they are inconvenient. A student's dharma is to study diligently. Whether they top the class or not isn't in their control, but their sincere effort is. Krishna teaches us with this shloka to identify our purpose and focus on fulfilling it. Let go of the need for constant validation or fear of failure. Act with dedication without being paralyzed by worries without the outcome. When we focus on karma, that is action, without attachment, that is Nishkam Karma, or the desireless action, selfless action, we align ourselves with the greater flow of life. We make history, just as Arjuna was encouraged to align with his dharma as a warrior. Detach from the outcome. Focus on your actions, not the results. Krishna explains that Arjuna's job is to fight with sincerity and integrity, but the outcome of the battle is not in his control. Acting without attachment to success or failure frees the mind from unnecessary anxiety. In chapter 2, verse 48, it is mentioned, Yogastha kuru karmani sangam tyaktva dhananjaya siddhaya siddhyo samo bhutva samatvam yoga uchyate. Perform your duties steadfastly in yoga, O Dhananjaya Arjuna, abandoning attachment to success and failure. Treat both outcomes, success and failure, with equanimity. Such even-mindedness is called yoga. In our lives, often we hesitate to act because we fear failure or rejection. Krishna's advice is to do your best and let go of the need to control the result. Whether you succeed or fail, the effort itself is meaningful. Krishna advises Arjuna to engage in action without being attached to the outcome. This approach ensures clarity of thoughts and steadiness, even in challenging situations. Detachment means viewing success and failure as two sides of the same coin. Both are temporary and should not dictate your sense of self-worth. If an athlete wins a race, it's the result of his efforts. If they lose, they still gain experience. In both cases, the focus should remain on continuous growth. Equanimity is true yoga. Krishna defines yoga as the practice of maintaining balance, no matter the circumstances. This mental discipline helps us to stay grounded and free from the highs of success or the lows of failure. Rise above personal attachments. Don't let emotions cloud your judgment. Arjuna's love for his family and respect for his elders make him reluctant to fight. Krishna explains that clinging to personal attachments can prevent us from fulfilling our responsibilities. In chapter 3, verse 9, it is mentioned, Yajnathartha karmano nyatra lokoyam karma bandhana tadartham karma kaunteya mukta sangha samachara. Work must be done as a sacrifice to the divine, otherwise it binds us to the material world. Therefore, O Arjuna, perform your duties free from attachment. View relationships through the lens of the soul. Understand that your loved ones are also eternal souls on their own journeys. This perspective reduces fear of loss and promotes unconditional love. Instead of clinging to your child's success as a reflection of your worth, support them in discovering their own purpose. The soul is beyond birth and death. Attachments arise from identifying too closely with the temporary body and relationships, forgetting the soul's eternal nature. Personal attachments can lead to biased decisions. Arjuna was hesitant to fight because he saw his loved ones on the battlefield. Krishna reminded him that their souls are eternal and cannot be harmed, helping him rise above his emotional attachments. A leader who is overly attached to certain team members may make unfair decisions. Detachment ensures, therefore, fairness and focus on the larger goal. In our lives, personal attachments do not mean neglecting loved ones or becoming emotionless. Instead, they encourage us to act with wisdom and compassion, free from the fear of loss or excessive dependency. This doesn't mean we stop caring about people. Instead, it's about not letting emotions like fear, guilt, or attachment stop us from doing what's right. For example, a parent disciplining a child does so out of love, even if it feels uncomfortable in the moment. Control the mind and emotions. Mastery over the mind leads to clarity and right action. Krishna emphasizes that the mind is like a restless monkey, easily swayed by emotions and doubts. Through self-awareness and discipline, we can calm the mind and make better decisions. In chapter 6, verse 6, it is mentioned, Bandhuratmatmanastasya yenatmaivatmana jita anatmanastu shatrutve vartetatmaiva shatruvat. For one who has conquered the mind is the best of friends. But for one who has failed to do so, the mind will remain the greatest enemy. Again in chapter 6 verse 5, he mentions, Uttharedatmanatmanam natmanam avasadayet atmaiva ye atmano bandhur atmaiva ripuratmana. One must elevate oneself through the mind and not degrade oneself. The mind is the friend of the conditioned soul, and the mind is also its enemy. Krishna's teaching in the Bhagavad Gita reminds us that the mind is a powerful tool, but only if we learn to master it. By controlling our emotions and thoughts, we can navigate life's challenges with wisdom and calmness. A controlled mind acts as a steady compass, guiding us towards fulfillment, peace, and higher purpose. Some practical steps for controlling the mind and emotions are: practice self-awareness. Regularly observe your thoughts and emotions without judgment. Recognizing patterns helps you to respond rather than react impulsively. When you feel anger rising, pause and ask yourself, what triggered this? How should I respond constructively? You can use notepads or journals to look into your train of thoughts and better productivity. Discipline through routine. Krishna advocates for discipline through practices like meditation and consistent habits. A disciplined life creates a balanced mind. Start your day with mindfulness or yoga to cultivate calmness and focus. Detach from desires and aversions. Emotional highs and lows often arise from excessive attachment or aversion. Learning to accept life's fluctuations can help maintain balance. Instead of being overly attached to success, see both success and failure as opportunities to learn and grow. Mindful action. Engage fully in your tasks without being distracted by worries or unnecessary thoughts or notification. While working, focus entirely on the present task rather than letting your mind wander to other concerns. Turn off your phone, silence all distractions, spend some time listening to birds in nature, and sit with yourself patiently. In our lives, when faced with dilemma, take a step back, pause, breathe, and reflect. This gap between impulse and action can help you respond wisely instead of reacting emotionally. See the bigger picture. Align your actions with the greater good. Understand that life's challenges are a part of a larger divine plan. Krishna tells Arjuna that the soul is eternal and that life and death are just parts of a larger cosmic cycle. By seeing beyond immediate struggles, we can find courage and peace. In chapter 2, verse 13, it is mentioned, Dehino asmin yatha dehi kaumaram yauvanam jara tata dehantar praptir dhirastra na munyati. Just as the soul passes through childhood, youth, and the old age within this body, it similarly passes into another body at death. The wise are not bewildered by this transition. Life is a journey of transitions. Krishna explains that life involves constant change, whether it's physical growth, emotional phases, or even the transition of the soul at death. Recognizing this helps us see beyond temporary struggles and losses. The pain of failure or loss is a part of greater cycle of learning and growth. The soul's eternity. The soul is eternal and unchanging, while the body and material experiences are temporary. Understanding this bigger picture allows us to approach challenges with calmness and detachment. Losing a loved one is painful, but knowing their soul continues its journey can bring peace and perspective. Wisdom brings stability. A person who sees life's broader purpose doesn't get overly attached to successes or failures, joys or sorrows. This steadiness leads to inner peace. In our lives, when things feel overwhelming, remind yourself that challenges are temporary and often lead to growth. Trust that there's a purpose to the difficulties you face, even if you can't see it yet. Transcend the small details of life and focus on the eternal truths. In chapter 4, it is mentioned, Yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati bharata abhyuttanam dharmasya tadatmanam srijamyaham paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya cha dushkritam dharma sansthapanarthaya sambhavami yuge yuge. Whenever there is a decline in righteousness and an increase in unrighteousness, O Arjuna, at that time I manifest myself. To protect the righteous, destroy the wicked, and re-establish Dharma, I appear age after age. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare.